Revolution is not going away.
This is the Ron Paul Liberty Report with Ron Paul, Daniel McAdams, and Chris Rossini.
We are all ambassadors of the Ron Paul doctrine, and it's so simple. Just tell the truth.
An idea whose time has come cannot be stopped by any army or any government.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to the Liberty Report. With us today, we have Daniel McAdams, our co-host. Daniel, good to be with you today.
Good morning, Dr. Paul. How are you this morning?
Very well, thank you.
Good.
And I'm sure you stayed up. As a matter of fact, you confessed.
I did?
You couldn't even leave it. You didn't want to miss anything.
Yeah.
So you listened to it. But I have to confess that I indicated I was duty bound because I have to stay up with the news that I was going to watch the whole thing. Well, I didn't make it. I did make some of it and read some reviews. But, you know, I looked at what he did say, and I don't think there was anything startling. I think sometimes when I was watching him, it's tone as much as anything that counts. But, you know, I told you I thought it would be interesting if somebody dissected that, somebody very, very knowledgeable, and go through almost every sentence, put true or false, and see what it would come up like. Or it's true or false or ambiguous.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of all. But you know what? If I had to just say what kind of a grade would I give to him from a purely political viewpoint, which is being very cynical, I say he did pretty darn well.
Yeah.
I don't think he's in worse shape. We'll see. Maybe the polls will show he went down 10 points, but it might show that he bumped up on the polls. Who knows? But I thought that he still has his problems. He didn't solve them. But his approach, of course, is a lot different than mine would be or yours would be on how to deal with this. And because they're not allowed to say anything you don't say, you know, I really didn't understand this quite well, and this is why I did that. I think we talk a little bit about Ronald Reagan. He was a person tend to, in a very diplomatic way, say I didn't understand it at that time or something, actually admit something.
Yeah.
Well, that's not likely to happen, you know, with this administration. And yet I believe there's nothing lost in politics if you just tell the truth, you know, to the best of your ability, you know, let them know what's wrong out there, like the inflation. Inflation is the number one problem, you know, the affordability of items and going to the grocery store. And Trump was able to find a place where he was conquering inflation. And, you know, in a way, what it is, it's a misunderstanding. It's not so much he claimed he conquers inflation, but he was attending shop when a price went down in an item. You know, gasoline goes up to $5, so it goes down to $4. I solved the problem of inflation. It isn't even related at all to it. So there's lots of problems, but I always think that if you're going to tell the problems, and especially if I were talking to young people, not to discourage them, because you know the only reason that people should be involved in politics or in education is that there's a better way to do something. The world is imperfect. It's going to remain imperfect. People want some hope, but you have to be upfront with them. This is the problem. We have a problem of inflation, destruction of the monetary system, and it has to do with education. And yet the solution to all our problems, I claim, it's not all that complicated. It's difficult to bring the solutions out and give the people to act on it and the politicians to do it. But that doesn't mean it becomes complex because nobody wants to stick with the issue of just flat out telling the truth where the problems are and what to do about it. I'll bet you could sit down and give them a pretty good advice on how to improve our foreign policy by following that rule.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I did watch it, and I don't really know why I watched it, but I don't usually. I think the reason is I've been very, very focused on Iran. I've been reading everything I can get my hands on from people who know a lot more than I do about military matters. And I was thinking that perhaps he might say something or might even, I mean, he's so unpredictable. He could have just gone down there and said, I just want to let you guys know I'm starting the bombs right now. and that could have been happening. So I wanted to hear what he said about Iran, and I'll get to that section later where he discusses Iran and some critiques I have of what he said. One thing I didn't get a clip on that I meant to that is interesting is about an hour or so before the speech started, through X, there were, and even Axios picked it up, suggesting that Thomas Massie was going to be sitting with the Democrats in protest of Republicans. And of course, a lie goes halfway around the world before that saying, before the truth catches up with it. Well, in fact, that was a complete lie. It was completely made up, and it was put out there to defame and to make Thomas Massie look bad. So that was disgusting, and I didn't think that he would do that, and he didn't. He was right there with the Republicans, So anyway, that's one thing. Politico did have a piece today. We both read it. We marked it up. Now I have the order wrong in there. It uploaded slowly. So number 2 should be number 1. The picture should be number 1. Yeah. So here's what they said. What Trump avoided in the State of the Union could haunt him in November. Okay. Now go backwards one. This is what the article says. President Donald Trump's State of the Union address was defined in many respects not by what he said, but what he avoided saying. There were several. These were the mistakes he avoided making. He did not attack the Supreme Court. He did not blitz members of his own party who have criticized him. He avoided rambling, angry digressions from the script. All of those true, Dr. Paul, and all of those wisely he did not do. Now go to the next one, which is the third one. Sorry, and this is what he did do. There were other issues he avoided addressing. This is kind of dumb. No ideas of housing or healthcare, whatever. There really weren't any policy proposals, Dr. Paul. He didn't clarify his policy on Iran. But here's the part that I highlighted. It was, for better or worse, a speech not likely to change the political trajectory of Trump's second term. I highlighted this. The historically long address was, in some ways, nearly indistinguishable from Trump's daily patter in the Oval Office, on Air Force One, or in the White House driveway. I think that was pretty accurate.
I think so too.
No real departures, I think.
Right. And I think the people that were there responded in a predictable manner.
Yeah.
Hey, that was the custom. I have confessed many times. Sometimes I just couldn't go to some of these speeches.
Yeah.
And especially when the speeches are being given by non-presidents and their foreigners, they're lobbying for money.
Yeah.
I never could understand that. So that's always a problem on whether you go there and listen. But it's an atmosphere that is different. It's almost people want to be there just because it's an important event.
Yeah.
And of course, we think it's an important event, but we might see it because they're not talking about, they're not offering the same type of solutions that we would like. And yes, we need a big discussion. The two big things. It's the cost of living and our foreign policy that is just totally out of control. And yet, I don't know if people are worried about that. I don't see how they would feel better today if the people, and they are getting to the point where they know that, running up a debt of $39 trillion has something to do with the finances in our same home. But the solution, of course, they said, they don't come up with a solution and what they have to do. They might have needed to even say something about the Federal Reserve if they're really looking for an answer, because I see that connected with, the inflating the money supply for domestic welfare, and also the military-industrial complex, and also all this equipment that we build and give away and bomb up a place, and then we go in and rebuild it. I mean, it's so outrageous. But traditionally, that's not what you're supposed to do. You're not supposed to level that much because the people just can't handle it. But if the people knew and understood exactly what's going on and how difficult the answers might be, but that they aren't that harmful as people believe. You mean you'd cut back on ABC? Yeah, you might have to. Yeah. So it's politics as usual, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I got a couple of videos to talk about. The first one it's just sort of funny, I guess. Maybe it's weird, but I thought we would kind of kick it off with this one. that first, and I think we want to play the first 32 seconds of this. This kind of is indicative of what the speech was like.
Our country is winning again. In fact, we're winning so much that we really don't know what to do about it. People are asking me, please, 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 Mr. President, we're winning too much. We can't take it anymore. We're not used to winning in our country. Until you came along, we're just always losing, but now we're winning too much. And I say, no, 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 you're going to win again. You're going to win big. You're going to win bigger than ever. And to prove that point.
Okay, so that's sort of funny one, but in a more serious way, you were interested in the discussion of the SAVE Act, and I have two videos on that that we can watch. Let's just watch the one and then the other. Here's President Trump's comment on the SAVE Act and voting ID.
To approve the Save America Act. To stop illegal aliens and others who are unpermitted persons from voting in our sacred American elections. The cheating is rampant in our elections. It's rampant. It's very simple. All voters must show voter ID.
It's not smart.
All voters must show proof of citizenship in order to vote.
Okay, I hit that second one really quick. It's a shorter one, but he's commenting about why people might want to do that. That next clip, if we can, video. Here we go.
Why would anybody not want voter ID? One reason, because they want to cheat. There's only one reason. They make up all excuses. They say it's racist. They come up with things. You almost say, what imagination they have. They want to cheat. They have cheated. And their policy is so bad that the only way they can get elected is to cheat. And we're going to stop it. We have to stop it, John.
I thought it was, are the Republicans force? Are they good and never participated in any of that? Oh.
It was interesting, though. The Democrats were definitely not happy about that.
No, but I think they're making a horrendous mistake.
Yeah.
Because I think the polling has showed that Democrats, they're always looking at groups, and they're the groups, the minority group, that they don't think that just anybody can walk in and vote.
Yeah.
Because people who have been here from different places, they've worked, they've paid their taxes, they have to, take care of their property and all this. But for people to come in, and the way I try to make fun of it all is, if they can do that, if they can vote, they don't have to be citizens, they don't have to be registered, they don't have to prove anything, and they don't have to have IDs. Well, then if everybody's allowed to, then you can't discriminate against anybody. And what if one of those individuals happen to be on a trip? Maybe when they're in someplace in Europe, they can vote.
Yeah.
And maybe if they've never been here,
Yeah.
they said you don't have to be a citizen. Maybe you don't ever even have to be here. I mean, the whole thing is just ridiculous, and I think that's why sometimes some of the campaigns that I looked at carefully is when it's narrowed down to maybe one or two sentences. Is the economy stupid?
Yeah.
That sort of thing.
That's, I think, one of the reasons why the Dems can't win back the blue-collar working class. And that's how Trump won them over, because they're concerned about things like this,
Yeah.
The Democrats were only speaking to the rich elites, the donor class. So the other part is the foreign policy section. And I have a clip. Max Blumenthal pulled up a clip, posted a clip on X. And there are 3 points that I'd want to make after we listen to what Max put up about Trump's comments on Iran. So if we can cue that one up, yeah. And before you play it, actually, Matt, here's what Max says. Trump recycles George W. Bush's Iraq War WMD propaganda. So keep that in mind while you listen. And he also says many Democrats stood and applauded after staying seated all night. So the only times actually the Democrats got up, Dr. Paul, to applaud is when Trump was talking about war with Iran. So let's go ahead and listen to this, play this whole clip, I think. I might cut you off before it's done, but let's play some of this.
Some terrible people. They've already developed missiles that can threaten Europe and our bases overseas, and they're working to build missiles that will soon reach the United States of America. After Midnight Hammer, they were warned to make no future attempts to rebuild their weapons program, and in particular, nuclear weapons. Yet they continue starting it all over. We wiped it out, and they want to start all over again. And at this moment, again, pursuing their sinister ambitions. We are in negotiations with them. They want to make a deal, but we haven't heard those secret words. We will never have a nuclear weapon. My preference is to solve this problem through diplomacy. But one thing is certain, I will never allow the world's #1 sponsor of terror, which they are by far, to have a nuclear weapon. Can't let that happen.
But a couple of things there, Dr. Paul. Again, as Max points out, he's recycling George W. Bush propaganda. They are building weapons that can hit the United States, which is not true. They're not.
And you know, it is a mixed thing going on here. Who are the pro-war people? Well, both parties are pretty bad right now, and yet to me it's such a disappointment. There's the lingering few from the intellectual progressives that are still with us on the war issue, but for the most part, the grassroots, I just don't quite understand how the grassroots has bought into that, because I listened to all that stuff in the 60s, because it was the progressive back then that was stirring up the trouble, and in a sort of an ugly way by needing to do all those very violent demonstrations here. But it was actually the thing that finally convinced the Congress that they had to do something about it. But it seems like there's not much support coming from the grassroots progressive. We do have our handful of some progressives that really are good at being loyal to these ideas.
But the party as such, you're right, is pro-war. And just like the Democratic leadership, the Gang of Eight was briefed by our intel and military people, and they came out basically saying they were for the war, but they just want to have more information to the American people. But here's the other thing that struck me. Now, the first one is that recycled propaganda. The second one, Trump said, essentially, we want to negotiate, we want to make a deal with them, but they have got to mention those secret words. We will not make a nuclear weapon. So he's basically saying this is the only thing between us and a deal. The fact of the matter is, as anyone knows, they have said it thousands of times. And in fact, just a couple of hours before President Trump's speech, if you go to that clip from Aragchi, the foreign minister, go forward one, literally hours before the speech, Dr. Paul, the foreign minister of Iran put on X, our fundamental convictions are crystal clear. Iran will under no circumstances ever develop a nuclear weapon. He said it again, but Trump keeps saying they have to say these words, they have to say them. Well, they've said them, so make the deal. Make the deal. That's the other thing. And one more thing, Dr. Paul, if you'll indulge me here, is Trump repeated something that's often said by the neocons, and I'm sure they told him this, that Iran is the biggest sponsor of terrorism, and that's just simply not true. And this doesn't make any excuses for them, but it's inaccurate. Now, Larry Johnson, who spent a lot of his career in counterterrorism at the Central Intelligence Agency, is someone that I would think would know this, and he does. On his Sonar 21 blog, just earlier this month, he said the big lie about Iran's support for terrorism. Now go to the next one. He's talking about the State Department compiles terrorist acts throughout the year and classifies them and categorizes them. I'm not going to read all this, but according to their most recent analysis, if you go to the next one, the top perpetrators are all Sunni groups. These are the top terrorist organizations. A French think tank reports similar results to the State Department, only their timeline covers 1979 to 2024. From 79 to 24, the top deadliest groups responsible for 81.8 of Islamist terrorist attacks: Al-Qaeda with 14,000, Taliban 71,000, Islamic State 69,000, Boko Haram 26,000, Al-Shabaab with 21,000. They are all Sunni groups. The Sunni organizations, the Sunni states, are the number one sponsors of terrorism, not Iran. That doesn't make Iran the nicest people around, but it's simply not a fact. What it is, Dr. Paul, is war propaganda.
Yeah, that's it. This is their method, and it's just mimicking. And some of those numbers probably come from, Iraq and the Middle East war.
Yeah.
They had to stir the people up with lies, and if a person is building with determination or trying to prevent the empire from collapsing, the bigger the lies get. And that's why, especially on foreign policy. But I think the innuendos and the lies and the propaganda, they don't see themselves, as sort of a noble thing they're doing. They think that they're permitted to have noble lies because it's for the sake of the people, because they don't know any better. They wouldn't know how to take care of themselves. But no, that is really sad that happens. And yet the sad part was, once again, is we're not getting much help from the people who traditionally have been much better on foreign policy. And now it's a real strong bipartisan support for what's going on in especially the Middle East, and especially with Iran. But it occurred with Ukraine.
Yeah.
They were together there on that as well. It was, matter of fact, it was still under Biden that a lot of that stuff started,
That's interesting you mentioned that, because now I'm just thinking, I don't think he talked about Ukraine at all. I think maybe for 5 seconds in the whole speech.
Yeah.
It really did not dominate the speech whatsoever. So that's pretty interesting. One other thing that struck me, Dr. Paul, and I wasn't sure how you felt about it, so I talked to you beforehand. But I noticed, make fun of me, but I do get, a sense when I see a military person get a Medal of Honor or Purple Heart. Well, they don't get the Purple Heart, but you know what I mean. When they get an award of such nature, even if the war is what we consider would be a bad war, these are people who are bad situations. But I was wondering, because what I saw, and I don't know how you feel about this, but I saw at least, I think, 2 or 3 times, it was actually 3 or 4 times, during the speech, President Trump called out a member of the U.S. military and then gave them an award right there in the middle of the speech. And I thought, that's kind of odd. I don't remember seeing that. So I went to Grok. I cheated. I went to Grok and I asked Grok, if you go to that clip, I said, have there ever been a military award given at a State of the Union speech? And they said yes, but then they went on to say it started in the 2026, which is yesterday, apparently the first time in this specific manner. And there were 2 medals of honor given, and the 100-year-old Korean War veteran. That was pretty amazing. And then there was a warrant officer who was injured in the Venezuela operation. And now go to the next one, because prior to 2026, there were also Purple Hearts and a Legion of Merit. Prior to 2026, I highlighted this, there are no clear historical precedents in the available records for a president formally awarding or presenting military medals during the State of the Union itself. So what do you think about that?
Well, what I've been thinking about when I heard it is, the president likes awards and recognition. And the way I heard it, that he alluded to the fact that he sort of wanted it to be a joke, but it probably wasn't him. He says, maybe someday I'll be up here receiving. Is that correct? Did you say something like that?
He said, they told me I can't give myself the Congressional Medal of Honor, but I do deserve it and I want it.
That's a problem, I think, for him.
Yeah. But I just think, and I think it has been done this way in the past, someone who earns one of those medals, a Medal of Honor, Congressional Medal of Honor, what have you, that ceremony I think should take place in the Oval Office or somewhere like that, with decorum, where the person gets the attention, gets the gratitude that he or she deserves. It sort of seemed like a spectacle to me. I don't know how you felt about that.
Well, I think you're right on that, and it should be a little bit more dignified, and it should be occasionally woven into these awards that fighting in these constitutional wars and winning these medals, somebody should at least give the recognition to the individual and not endorse and not pretend, well, isn't it wonderful we went over there and just look at how we can whip the Iranians out or the Iraqis. Look at what we did to them. And then somebody becomes a hero for it. I mean, it's a sad mixture. And I think in some way, the foreign policy that leads us into these situations, it's a little bit different. I think if somebody got an award there for some of this Middle Eastern fighting versus the way that the draft worked and the war were, whether the Nazis and the Japanese going, I think people would be less anxious to criticize that. But I think for it to have more meaning is to have it done more, as you suggest, a little more dignified.
Yeah, they almost felt like they were props. They were props for the president to point
That's for
to.
sure.
Look how great this is. So, anyway, that might be a little bit of a petty thing, but I just thought it was unseemly. But that's basically all I've got, Dr. Paul, on it. I did watch it all. After it was over, I watched it with my son and my wife. After it was over, I almost needed a cleanse. So I put on Ronald Reagan's 1983 State of the Union speech. The contrast was so remarkable. Not to say that Reagan is the greatest president in the history, but just the way that he delivered a dignified speech was so different.
Well, my only suggestion, I even mentioned it on the opening statement, is to be upfront, tell the truth, and you can win over more people than fluffing it over, distorting the truth, and then pretending that you're something that you're not, and pretending that there are dangers that don't exist, because eventually history will finally sort it all out. Yeah. But in the meantime, when things get real bad, the people will sort it out, and you can't get away with it. And then I often think about, the people who do fib and rationalize and do this. Some have there's a group that will have different motivators. It might be just the military industrial complex selling more weapons, and it might be because people honestly believe the propaganda. They might blow up New York City. Yeah. Yet all you have to do is wait for a storm, and it gets blown up.
Yeah, no kidding.
So it's a mess. But I think that overall, having the speech, I think it's important having the speech, and there's pros and cons, and I just hope we never lose the ability and the right to talk about this. But that one thing is happening now. You mentioned some words, some places you might be removed from a position of expressing yourself, and we better concern about that, because if we don't have that right, we can't argue in a very peaceful manner to try to change things, because I'm convinced that it is complex, but I'll tell you what, the answer is not that difficult. I think just working within the confines of believing in non-aggression and believing in peace, not war, honest money, these are not complicated. It's a matter of fact too simple. The people fear it because it does challenge the authoritarians, and that's what they don't like about liberty. I want to thank everybody for tuning in today to the Liberty Report. Please come back soon.
Thanks for watching the Ron Paul Liberty Report. Like and subscribe to help spread the message. And until next time, live free.
This country is in a revolution, and I have